I'm gonna go and say safety. I feel really safe here. There's not a lot of crime here. The police don't carry guns. People don't carry guns. So I feel like really safe. Like if I see a policeman walking by, like I have no fear at all, at all. I've never been stopped by a policeman here. So it's just a certain level of security here, you know.
My experiences, for the most part, has been really good. Police don't, you know, profile me as much as they used to back in the States.
I would have to definitely say safety is number one thing that kind of drawn my wife and I to call Japan home.
This may sound a little strange, a little hyperbolic, but here in Japan, I am a free black man. I came here when I was 21. And it's the first time, well, that was almost 40 years ago. Next January will be 38 years ago, nearly 40 years ago. But living here, I feel free. I don't fear the police. I feel like a free black man here. Actually, just a free man. And I'm not exaggerating here. Forgive me if it sounds hyperbolic, but no, really. If for some drastic reason Japan changes, I may have to go somewhere else.
A lot of black people feel safer in Asia.
There's a lot of things, little subtle things that I do in Japan or that's done that's, you know, makes me feel at home. But if I compare it to other experiences I've had as a black man, the safety and the lack of police, like racial profiling, and even if you do have some sort of interaction with the police, I mean, there's, you know, I've never talked to anyone who at any time started feeling in fear in some sort of physical way. And I saw your video when you got stopped over in Tokyo. And yeah, I mean, yeah, at best it's troublesome. I wouldn't, you were a lot nicer than I am, but I don't think at any time you ever think like, hey, these guys are gonna, you know, throw me down in the hood and really just embarrass me and, you know. So yeah, I mean, how can you not like that?
I just think, like, for me, I always want to encourage all blacks to, you know, up their game up, especially black Americans. Like, I just feel that we kind of stay in our country where we're discriminated against in our own country. We build a wilderness up for everybody else to come over. I'm not gonna get into that right now. And I feel like we're getting discriminated in our own country like we're foreigners, and we're not. You know, so I really want black Americans to know there's a place for you. There's a place in Rwanda, I'm there. A place in Ghana, I'm there too. There's a place in Japan, so you should come over and let's build together.
To be honest, as a black person, here in Sapporo, it's been pretty good. Like I said, this is the safest I've ever felt. Living in America, living in the United Kingdom, living here in Sapporo as a black person, this is the safest that I've ever felt in my life. The most significant way Japan differs from my home country is that it differs in every way imaginable. I guess I go back to the peace. I think for me as a black person, I've always grown up hearing the notion you have to put on your armor and armor up before you leave the house and you enter out into the world. And while I think that there's still that reality that as a black individual, wherever you are, there's a certain armor that you have to still wear, I find living here, I don't feel I need to be armored up. And when I walk out the house, I have to be ready to go and just ready at all times. I think that for me is the most significant difference, is that just that peace of mind that I have and that ability to not have to prepare myself and armor up before I leave the house.
Peace. It's very peaceful. If I were in the United States, you know, black people tend to get profiled by the police. I don't really get that here. I don't really get any negative negative emotions or negative energy towards me being black. If anything, people are interested. If anything, I'm not really seen as dangerous or a criminal or a thief or violent or loud or boisterous. I'm none of those things. And here, I kind of have a blank slate because a lot of people in Japan don't really know. I don't want to say they're ignorant, but I would say the idea of the black man is what you see on TV. You know, the rappers, you know, the stereotype. And when people meet me, I can kind of prove that stereotype wrong, you know? And that's nice to be able to show people who don't have a very good idea or a very good grasp about black culture. You can kind of show them what we're really about. And we're not all the same. We all have different vibes, different goals, different things that make us unique. We're not all just pushed into this one category, you know?
Singapore, I would say, as a black person, I mean, yeah, it's very mentally healing here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very, very peaceful.
Wow. And you've been here for over a decade.
Yes, it's my 10th year. One thing I have to say about China and about Asia in general, my experience is that the blood isn't really in the sand here from a historical standpoint. So a lot of the comments or maybe, let's say, statements that are made related to black people, I think there's not much historical context as to what it could mean to that person. Like they probably wouldn't even realize that things could be hurtful or offensive because there wasn't a civil rights movement for black people here. There wasn't a need for it. It didn't happen here, right?
Yeah.
I have to say the thing I like the most about Japan is the safety. I've lived in Florida, Abuja, Nigeria, Accra, Ghana, Boston, San Francisco, and I visited several countries in the world over the course of my life, and Japan stands out the most in terms of safety. Especially, I mean, coming from America, especially as a black person, I've never felt my life was in danger. I've never felt like somebody was doing something with malicious intent, you know, like in terms of racism or in terms of anything else. You know, I never felt like there was an actual threat to me getting severely injured just because, you know, I was there or just because I had an altercation with somebody or something. So I think safety is a really big thing that allows me to feel comfortable here. You know, I can walk at night in any part of town and not feel in danger. I don't feel in danger for my niece and nephew coming home from school. I don't feel any danger about my wife, you know, coming home late or going somewhere late. You know, there's no sense of anxiety regarding safety for me here.
Being black in America, there's a lot of, you know, discrimination and there's a lot of injustice like things. And I feel like the dangers of being black in America, I don't feel in Japan. I feel like it's very safe being over here. And I guess a part of that reason is because Japanese people don't really know about black people. So saying that you're black doesn't come with like these labels that I feel like we are put against in America. I feel safe, I can do what I want, I can go anywhere I want at any given time. I feel like I just have more freedom being in Japan and being black.
You know, living in New York or living in America, it's a completely different feeling as to living here because you just overall feel safe. And you feel safe to the point where it's dangerous you might leave your house unlocked sometimes, or you might leave your phone somewhere. You know, if in America that might be gone, but here in Japan, you know, you feel way safer. So
for black people, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're black from the U.S. I think that there are a lot of things that you could take from an experience like this, like, and not everybody hates us. Like we're not, you know. Like in America, we get a bad rep, but like here, like they don't know, like it's not the same. Like we have the ability to kind of start over and like create our own path here, and you know do what we want to do, which is normally just like live a normal life, like without all the extra hurdles and struggles that we have to go through, especially in America.
I like the safety. I don't really like, you know, thinking about like, for example, if you go to ATM machine 3 a.m., you know, like you don't really consider who's behind you. Like, you know, you're on the train or whatever, like if you leave something there, like the odds of you getting it back are pretty high. You know, like you don't have to worry about locking your car doors or whatever. Like, so for me, safety is big.
The biggest difference I think between here and the UK or the US or anywhere really that I've been, because I've done some traveling, anywhere I've been before coming here, I feel like, so the US is maybe not particularly physically safe. The UK is not particularly physically safe. Korea is very physically safe. Like I could walk around in the middle of the night in this neighborhood at 2 a.m. and it's safe. But Korea is not emotionally safe at all. Whereas I feel like in the UK and the US, there's a lot more emotional and social safety, whereas that's not a thing in Korea. I don't know if it's different for Native Koreans, but I know as an expat, I definitely feel sometimes a little bit tender emotionally. Like there's a lot of things coming at you emotionally speaking.
I would say for the most part, it's safe. Like I really have not had any problems as far as that's concerned.
Nah, you know what? The biggest difference, matter of fact, is the safety. Biggest difference is the safety. I remember talking to my cousins, they don't even believe me. When I tell them you can walk around 2 in the morning, both headphones in your ear, nighttime, and be straight. They didn't believe me. They was like, nah, we don't believe you. But I'm like, for real, like, you really can't do that. If you was a woman, I wouldn't advise doing it, no disrespect. But you know, violence towards women or you know, female-related crimes, unfortunately, statistically are higher than they are towards men. Because it's a lot of cowards out here that find women to be easy prey. But in general, it is a lot safer in Korea than it is in America, most definitely.
But being black in Japan is, I like it much better. You're somewhat of a novelty in Japan. But ultimately, people do respect you. I think in America, people don't always respect you if you are black. And that's one of the reasons why I've chosen to live out here.
When I got off the plane and I'm walking through the city, I literally felt how relaxed I had been living here in Japan. In terms of like being able to spot like, you know, certain danger or look around and see different threats. Being in Japan and not using this muscle and not literally having to walk around and like keep, you know, like my head on a swivel has literally made me drop my guard in so many different ways. And I think that is one of the biggest differences between my country and Japan. If you are here in Japan, you will notice that you are in an environment where you don't have to put your guard up all the time, and versus the United States, it's not like you gotta be on constant edge, but there are certain areas and places that you would go to where you know it's time to, like, you know, keep your head on a swivel, and it's time to pay closer attention to your surroundings and everything around you. And I would say that's one of the biggest differences between my country and Japan.
Overall, my experience in China has been, I hate to say, sad to say, better than in the States. Because I feel like I'm not ignorant to the world we live in. You know, there's no place in the world where I can outrun my blackness. But I feel like being in China, my person is never in danger. There are ignorant people everywhere. There are curious people everywhere. There are just, you know, neutral people everywhere. But I feel like I've never been physically in danger because of how I look. It's safe. And this is not just me, but even for like my female friends, they never feel like walking home at 5 in the morning is a danger to them, especially in the bigger cities. Now, smaller cities I can't really attest to, but I've never felt more safe in my life.
I don't want to say it because it's so typical, but safety as well. I remember in Toronto, if I'm walking home, you know, after a long part-time shift, maybe it's like 11 p.m., I will always be like turning back, looking behind me as I walk from the bus station to my house. But here in Japan, maybe it's like 1 a.m. I'm just walking, you know, down the street and I have no worries. And I just really appreciate that you can feel safe here, especially as a woman. I can feel safe here.
What's something that Japan does really well that the world can learn from?
Security, safety. Safety. So Japan is the only country I would ever even dream of going out at night by myself and have no worries whatsoever. So I like to have, I like to go to Roppongi and I do it on my own, like all the time. I never have to look like over my shoulder. I never have to worry about something being stolen from me. There might be altercations here and there, but it's really so safe. It's even too safe because then you let your guard down. So when you travel internationally, it's like, oh, you have to pick up all the senses and come back to being alert. So I think the way Japan is safe is something that everybody could learn from.
I think it's pretty easy here. It's very easy to live here, yeah. Very easy. You don't have to, that feeling when you're walking down the street in the UK or Jamaica or the Caribbean, and you have this little sixth sense or seventh sense going on at the back, you've got this radar looking out for trouble. When you're here, that's switched off. You don't have that at all. It's gone.
What do I like the most about Japan? I didn't want to say the safety, but it's the safety. Japan is so safe.
If you're black, don't be scared. You're not gonna get that racial abuse and stuff like that in Japan, because you won't get that. Just that people don't know who really black people is, and they might be a little bit scared of coming closer or stuff like that. But it's not because they are racist, but it's just because they don't know. So they're not racist, they just don't know. And also, it's very peaceful. Don't be scared. No police is gonna see you on the road and shoot you. So don't be scared, you're safe, it's peaceful. Just come with your own money in your pocket and enjoy the rest of everywhere. You can visit as much as you can.
Do I think Asia is the safest place for black people? I don't know how to answer that. But being here in Singapore, I feel pretty safe. I think I've been here for a few months and so far I've been so good. So I'm excited. I think I plan to be here for a few more years, and I'm hoping that it's still going to be safe as I've experienced the last few months.
Why do we feel safer in Asia? Because this place is not conditioned with 500-600 years of writing a specific narrative about us. All right? So that also means that if you yourself are of the mindset of not being held down or of not viewing your skin color as a hindrance, then you will only see that your skin color is an opportunity just as much in the same way as it has been for me. So I think part of that safety feeling is simply because of the fact that you are not amongst people who are preconditioned over centuries, over 500-600 years of believing that you are by nature to be feared. Right? That doesn't exist over here. You can even if you encounter it in anyone, you can quell it in a very short time. All right? Because within a 5-minute engagement, you can make anyone realize that, oh, okay, well, whatever prejudice I had would clearly do not exist in this person. And after some time, I think it's about being at enough ease with yourself to realize that if you're not a threat to yourself, how could you possibly be a threat to anybody else? You are an asset wherever you go. And you really have to train yourself to believe that and realize that.
Many good things about being in Japan. It's safe, which is really a big deal, right? Which you don't really understand it until you kind of live in a really safe place.
Japan is safe. Japan is one of the safest countries I've ever lived in, and I've lived in a lot of countries.
We learn so much more when we explore. We learn a lot more, we accumulate more knowledge, more intelligence, more spirituality, more wealth, intellectual wealth when we travel. So I think to travel is an extraordinary gift and a blessing. But also the West, there are so many hindrances. One of the drives for me to moving out here was just an unquantifiable and intangible weight of being held back. Right? It's intangible, you can't quantify it, you can't name it, but you know it's there. So it's a weight of being held back. But I also think this applies not just to black people or Africans traveling to Asia. I think everyone, wherever you're born, you ought to leave and go somewhere else for 2 to 5 years.
So of course, no country or region is without its challenges. Asia is no different. If you want a more in-depth look into the experiences of these black people and more across Asia, check out the videos on this channel in our Melanated Files series for a more in-depth look. Also, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and remember to subscribe for weekly videos on the black experience across the globe. Remember, our mission is to lambast the negative stereotypes of black people across the globe, repairing, restoring our image.